And lightning strike me down if I lie, me no one be around when my tongue's untied. Everybody says it's okay, all the little things I say with my big fat mouth.
Well, good morning. I'm glad that you've joined us this morning as we finish My Big Fat Mouth. And if you're a guest or if you're watching online, I welcome you this morning. Weiberg says, words are singularly the most powerful force available to humanity. In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, it says, the tongue can bring death or life. And that's why we have been doing this series, looking at what our words do and don't do. We started out looking at our example, Jesus Christ, and it was said of him that no one ever spoke the way this man does. And it's because his words pleased the Father. They were life-giving, they were encouraging. And then the next week we looked at, instead of complaining, we should praise or have gratitude. And then we need to replace criticism with encouragement. And last week, what was it about? Anybody remember? Lying. Not that any of us have ever done that. And this week, we're looking at gossip. In his book, Resisting Gossip, Matthew Mitchell defines gossip as bearing bad news behind someone's back out of a bad heart. And remember, we said we don't have a tongue problem, we have a heart problem. He goes on and says that when the book of Proverbs uses the word gossip, it does so in the noun form, not the verb form. In other words, the Bible is not concerned, or is concerned less with the words and more concerned about the heart. Because the mouth that generates destruction comes from a heart that is bad. He says words matter, but they are simply the overflow of one's heart. I know gossipers, do you? Don't look at your neighbor. Have you heard the latest gossip? Anybody? Anybody want to share? You know, it's kind of funny. We love to gossip, but only in small groups, don't we? I was thinking about that. We only gossip when the person's not there, right? We don't want to gossip when they're there. And it's all around us. It's in the grocery stores. It's on TV. It's in the workplace, isn't it? It's on, look at your Twitter account or on Facebook. In fact, an article from 2010 said that social networking websites pose a serious threat as they blur the lines between gossip and fact before school children learn to appreciate the difference. That kind of sounds like something an adult would say, wouldn't they? You can't go to this movie because it's bad for you, but I'm going to. I look at that when he says, because they haven't learned how to appreciate the difference. We think we have it figured out. God's word, though, in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 8 says, rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart. I like M&Ms. And sometimes I buy those big bags. Not like the sharing bags, but the really big bags. And what happens to them? Those are just little things. But before long, the whole bag is empty because it's a morsel that's sweet. And that's what he's saying here. Rumors are morsels that we love, and we don't realize that it sinks deep into our heart and affects the heart of others. You see, gossip hurts. Turn to your neighbor and say that. Gossip hurts. See if you agree with this. Gossip hurts the person it's spoken about. Would you agree with that? Absolutely. All of us have had someone gossip about us. Proverbs 16:28 says, a troublemaker plants seeds of strife. Gossip separates the best of friends. About 20 years ago, Pam and I were going through a rough patch in our marriage. And rumors were flying around about what was happening. And a friend that I had known who was a fellow pastor, and I had known him since grade school, he called one day, and Pam answered the phone, and he was kind of shocked. And he didn't know what, and he just said, well, could you have Don give me a call when he gets a chance? And so I called him back when I had an opportunity, and I asked him, what's up? He says, who was that woman that answered your phone? I said, it was Pam. He said, well, I thought you guys were divorced. I said, news to me. It's amazing, isn't it? And that really put a rift in our friendship, because he felt bad. He felt uncomfortable around the two of us, and it kind of just slowly, the friendship died. And I believe it was that point right there when he thought and heard something, and rather than calling up and saying, hey, I hear you guys, yeah, we were having a rough time, but we weren't divorced. I don't think so. It's like, I've been married a long time now. Yeah. But gossip hurts the person it's spoken about. Gossip also hurts the listener. That example I just gave is a perfect example of it. Proverbs 17:4 says, wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars pay close attention to slander. In the Message, it says it this way: evil people relish malicious conversation. The ears of liars itch for dirty gossip. I don't know about you, but I know about me. I don't need the dirt on anybody else because I've got enough in my own life. I don't need to know about other people's shortcomings because I have enough of my own. And people who listen to gossip run into trouble. And here's one of the things that I've learned. When people stop talking about you, or talking to you about someone else, guess who they start talking about? You, to somebody else, don't they? We say that a lot. In my family, there's 6 of us kids, and you know, there's a lot going on right now, and 2 of my sisters are having a hard time with each other. Is that gossip? But it's funny, the one will say, blah, 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 blah. Phil's going to interpret, no. And then the other one said, and then we wonder, and what do they say about us when we're not in the room? You know? And so when we listen to gossip, it hurts. And gossip not only hurts the person that's spoken about, it not only hurts the listener, gossip hurts the speaker. Proverbs 25, 9 through 10 says, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. Isn't it funny how in some ways we never grow up? You know, my two grandsons are 5 and 3, and you know what their favorite pastime is? Tattling on the other. It is. I mean, it's almost like they're on the lookout for something they can come and run and say, Papa. But we never really outgrow that. We continue to do it. Proverbs 25, 9 through 10 in the CEV says, when you and someone else can't get along, don't gossip about it. Others will find out and your reputation will be ruined. When we gossip, people start to look at us and wonder, can I share this with them? I think I've told this before, but I was an associate pastor at a church, and the pastor had a unique way of gossiping without gossiping and without breaking his rule. Have I told you guys this? See, he'd always tell people when he was done with a conversation with them, this will never leave this room, which was his office. So what did he do? If he wanted to tell somebody, he'd just bring them into his office and tell them. Because it never left the room. And over time, that hindered his ability to minister because people started to wonder. And there were times when he'd say, well, you told me that in confidence in my office. I haven't told anybody about it. I wish I had said this, I didn't, but someone says talking badly about someone else when they're not around says more about you than the person you're talking about. Isn't that true? It says more about us. And we've become really good at disguising gossip in the church. We disguise it in a prayer request. You know, hey, we need to pray about this. I don't know about you guys, but I think God already knows, right? He knows all the details, all the nuances, everything about it, and I don't need to know it because He knows it. I'm not the one that's going to fix it. He's going to take care of it. And you know, just a general, hey, pray for so-and-so is all I need. Because God knows what's going on, doesn't He? Or we clothe it in a concern. Boy, I am so worried about their marriage. Or, this is my favorite, venting. I just have to get this off of my chest. The one I don't have much experience with, but I've seen it, and I look at my example now and I think, oh, I don't know that I want to use it, but we clothe it in praise. Man, I wish I looked as good as her in a bikini that's skimpy like that. We say something good about someone, but we have that little hook that turns it into, well, why, if she, you know, why? And then clarification. I know you guys have all been wondering this. Is it just me? Or does Pastor Don look like he's putting on a few pounds? You know? Aren't we good, though, at disguising it and clothing it and making it like, well, we're really not gossiping, but we are. Hey, if you want to know if I put on a few pounds, come ask me. I haven't. It's more than a few. No. We can't avoid gossip. It is everywhere. But we can resist it. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to guard our ears. Mark 4:24, this is a wise guy who said this, Jesus, consider carefully what you hear. He continued, with the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and even more. Now, a couple of tools that I use sometimes for guarding my ears. The first one is this. Why are you telling me this? Boy, that stops somebody, doesn't it? Why are you telling me this? I'm not part of the problem. I'm not part of the solution. Why are you telling me that? If that doesn't work, then I have a second thing that I often use, and it's, have you spoken with, and insert the person's name, about this? Because again, we like to talk about each other, but not in each other's company, right? That's when gossip, you can talk bad about me all you want as long as I'm there. And really that, have you spoken with this person about it? It's biblical. Matthew 18:15 says, if your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. And then the third thing is just saying, hey, how about we include so-and-so in our conversation? Oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to talk to you about them without them being around. And it's just, I'm concerned. I think you need to know all the facts or whatever. And sometimes guarding our ears may require not hanging out with someone. Proverbs 20:19 says, a gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid a man who talks too much. I remember the story of a church that was having difficulty, and they were chewing up and spitting out pastors, and people would come and people would leave, and there were all sorts of difficulties. And finally they got an older pastor to come in and just fill in for a while, and it's like he immediately figured out what the problem was. And so he used that passage of scripture because there was a woman in the church that was spreading all sorts of gossip and rumors and would always belittle the pastor and the pastor's wife and other people. And so he used that verse, and then he walked off the pulpit, went to that lady, and with a big piece of chalk, put an X on her back and said, now practice that verse. Wow, right? I would never do that. I'd use permanent marker. Sometimes we just have to, there are some people that they won't stop. So guard your ears. Practice the golden rule. We all know that, right? Luke 6:31, do to others as you would like them to do to you. Man, I just love it when people gossip about me. I love it when I'm the center of the conversation about all the things I do poorly. None of us like that, do we? So why would we do it to somebody else? If we practice the golden rule, there's a lot of things that we wouldn't say. I don't want everybody to know every time I've messed up. I don't want everyone to know about all my shortcomings. So just practice the golden rule. If we do that, it'll help us guard and resist temptation. And then the third thing is, and I think we have a hard time with this because there's so many ways that we can do it, and the Bible is so blunt. Close your mouth. I mean, Proverbs 21:23, it says, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. But I'm not saying anything, I just put it on Facebook, you know, right? I didn't speak it, I just typed it out. I didn't say anything, I just put it on Twitter. I didn't say anything, I just listened to what they had to say and shook my head yes. I think if we have to open our mouths, we need to speak life. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Imagine if we got caught as a group of people, as individuals, being people who were encouraging, who were sharing the love of Jesus with everyone we come in contact with. Because here's the truth. You're broken. And I'm broken. Right? They're broken. There's not one of us that doesn't have a flaw. And gossip just loves to share others' flaws. A church bulletin listed the sermon topic for the morning as gossip. Immediately following was the hymn, I Love to Tell the Story. What story are you telling? The bad news of another or the good news of Jesus Christ? The shortcomings of another or the resurrection power of Jesus Christ? We get to choose. So guard your ears. Practice the golden rule. Close your mouth. And now we're right back where we began this series. Guard your heart. Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. The only hope that we have for a changed heart is the saving, cleansing, transforming work of Jesus Christ. Right? We can't do this, but He can do it in us. If we'll allow Him. Let's pray. Father, I thank you today for the gossip-destroying power of the gospel. Forgive us for those times when we've tried to put others down to build ourselves up. I thank you that in our weakness, you are made strong. I thank you for the example of Jesus Christ, who had numerous opportunities to do all the things and to practice all the things that we've talked about over the course of this series, and never once fell into that trap that Satan had laid. Give us the strength to lift one another up, to be that person that people say, man, they're not like everybody else. They always have a good word. They're always looking on the upside of situations. And may we go to your word and allow it to refresh and to renew and to transform our hearts. Because we don't have a problem with our tongue. The problem is with our heart. In Christ's name I pray. And everyone said,
Amen.